Hello and welcome back to the Nasty Metal Productions channel here at YouTube, and welcome to another Album of the Week video. This is episode number 212. Today's episode, holy shit, I can't absolutely explain to you why I am now getting around to spotlighting Life Sentence, the brilliant comeback album for cult new wave of British heavy metal band Satan, originally released on April 29th, 2013 via the Listenable Records label, which means that this has already reached 10 years old. This was, of course, the band's third album under their original Satan name. It would have been their seventh if they hadn't had changed their name several times. So with all that said, let's begin. So Satan over the years had went through various band name and lineup changes. Blind Fury in 1985, then back to Satan in the following year, then to Pariah in 1988, then split up in 1989 after the Blaze of Obscurity album, to which Steve Ramsey and Graham English would form Skyclad in 1990 with Sabat's Martin Walkyier, hope I pronounced his last name correctly, as their lead vocalist. He would be with them till 2001. Then sometime in 1997 they would come back as Pariah for one last time to release the Unity album, and by 2004 they would do a one-off show back as Satan, which, for the most part, with most of the classic Court in the Act album lineup, just minus drummer Sean Taylor. In his place was, at the time, current Blitzkrieg drummer Phil Brewis. This would plant the seeds for the future reformation of Satan, which finally happened in 2011. This time with Sean Taylor back behind the drum set, to which led them to ink the deal with the Listenable Records label, and then finally recording and releasing their long-awaited comeback album, Life Sentence, which would see the light of day on April 29th of 2013. So, featuring 10 tracks, clocking in at the length of 44 minutes and 6 seconds, these 10 tracks are, well, of course, beginning with Time to Die, 2025, Cenotaph, Siege Mentality, Incantations, Testimony, Tears of Blood, the title track, Personal Demons, and then finally ending off with Another Universe. So there you go, there's your 10 tracks. Just like everybody else, I was absolutely floored by this album. Now, for the most part, when usually classic or iconic or even cult metal bands that were formed back in the day, who haven't had released an album in years, come back a decade or a couple decades later with either the same or slightly altered lineup, usually the result may not be as what many would come to expect. It might sound nowhere near their expectations, to which will lead to many to feel underwhelmed. That has not been the case for Satan, one of the original new wave or British heavy metal bands alongside Raven, Diamond Head, Saxon, Tigers of Pantang, Jaguar, Tank, etc. and etc. Not only was it awesome that the classic Court in the Act lineup of Ross, Tippins, Ramsey, English, and Taylor were back as Satan, but they just came roaring back with this album and scorched everybody before they could even say that this would be anything but underwhelming. While that classic Court in the Act sound is very present here, what they set out to do was to further expand on that sound by bringing back its classic lineup to basically continue to move things forward. Just from the beginning notes of Time to Die, you literally are being taken on a wild journey. There are just so many brilliant bangers on here, like Cenotaph, which brings in a heavy direction that isn't that far off removed from their days as Pariah. But then you get songs like Siege Mentality and the title track, which bleeds that classic sound that you got on Court in the Act. Whereas 2025, Incantations, Testimony, Tears of Blood, and Personal Demons keep that classic sound but updates it, which sets the tone for the later albums. Which brings me to the final song, that is Another Universe. It is the longest song on this album, clocking in at the length of 6 minutes and 19 seconds. This has some prog influences, meaning that they kind of flirt with prog here, and of course they've always kind of flirted with sort of progressive sort of compositions and so on in the past, but here they take it to an extra level. It starts off slow and somber, then begins to build around the 1 minute and 33 mark, to which it unloads at around the 2 minute and 19 mark, and thus the song itself takes you on a thrill ride. This also sets the template for the subsequent albums, where the ending songs are just like glorious climaxes. Just an awesome epic-like quality that is found here, and is all brought to life by Brian Ross's distinct voice, the dueling guitar attacks of both Tippins and Ramsey, and then held together by the thunderous rhythm section that is English and Taylor. This was such an amazing comeback album that has led to many other amazing albums since, with their most recent offering, Earth Infernal, being my top 1 album pick of last year. And at this point, there seems to be no end in sight for this band. They will obviously return a year later or two with another brilliant album, because that's the level of craftsmanship that these guys exudes. Just top-notch performers. So I always look forward to any new Satan album, but I wouldn't be saying any of this if this album didn't exist. So here is my late toast to the 10th anniversary for Life Sentence. If you have any thoughts, whether they are positive or negative, you can leave them in the comment section below. But if you have never listened to this album, please do. This album gets the NMP Gold Stamp Seal of Recommendations, making it a mandatory listen. So with that, this is Heavy Thrash saying I'm out, and I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone.